We're now here at the Darkglass booth with the wonderful Amos. Hello, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me about this today. You brought out a new pedal. What the hell, man?
I did.
Could have given us a heads up. Damn.
So sorry.
So this is, I'm sure you'll talk us through it more. The KAAMOS, which is essentially an octave and a drive all in one.
Yes.
I mean, that's putting it, short term. It does so much more.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for this? Because I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh, sure, man. Probably the best, if you ever design a pedal, just think of what you wish existed. You know, like there's a million people with a million great ideas, and man, as a bass player, after you have like your nice clean pre-compressor, maybe an always-on kind of grit or drive, the next pedal I see on most bass players' pedal boards is an octave pedal. Gives you access to extended range notes without needing to switch to a 5 if you're more of a 4 player.
Sure.
But the synthy sort of approach aspect can be just really great for pop, R&B, funk, soul, all that kind of stuff without having to add like a key bass rig to your entire setup.
Yeah.
So you can get access to sort of like synthier key bass tones without needing to overcomplicate your rig.
Yeah.
And just, I'm been so impressed with everything that Darkglass makes. I was really excited to sort of pitch it as a concept. Here's a couple of things that I want to do, and just to see what they did with it, with their own design, like aesthetic, engineering approaches, their suggestions come back.
So this is really a collaboration.
Fully.
Really. You're not like, do this, I want this. It's like really everybody working together, the best minds.
Way too much of a people pleaser to carry that off with any like convictions. But everyone here is just great, like really like respectful, sort of ego-free, like, oh, what if it did this? And it was really like, I don't think I pitched anything kind of pie in the sky that they weren't like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Of course, let's do that. Can we flip the routing so the sub stays clean? Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Can we use this drive circuit? Yeah, we got a bunch of them laying around.
As well as they know what people are going to buy and like how that's going to work for different people and what people like about their other products, which, in a way this has quite some similar features to some others, which I'm really glad to hear. Yeah, I like these knobs that you can push down.
Yes.
Do you want to explain a little bit about the loop and how you can position this? People often aren't sure where to put an octaver in their signal chain.
Of course.
So with this, you can have that flexibility, right?
You sure do. The routing on the pedal in one essence stays the same because it is the octave into the drive. Because you don't really want to have the drive before an octave, because having an octave that tracks well, that follows the notes that you're playing quickly and cleanly, that's paramount. And sending it a distorted signal mucks that up a little bit. So that was clear from the get-go. Individually controllable. This was my idea that I wasn't sure if it was going to be good, but you can blame it on Darkglass because they said, yeah, no problem, let us do what you do. So it has an effects loop that you can move around in the signal chain. So in this parallel mode that we are right now, so you got that going on. Just going to kick on the delay because it's right. So the driven signal is delayed.
Yeah.
But the octave isn't. Trying to mix down a little bit. Will you keep hitting this button? Now the sub is delayed.
I like that.
We're in this, turn the repeats up. Oh, in this third position, the clean level that you control here. Where did that go? So just the clean signal is getting delayed. So again, that's kind of
it's kind of splitting that signal into 3 in a way. Yes. Running them parallel out.
Right. Speaking of parallel, my other favorite thing about it is there are 2 modes essentially for the octave and the drive to work together. The first and sort of most intuitive that most people are used to is you get the octave signal, run that whole thing through a drive. So here's our drive. Right, there's our drive. Here's just the octave. The octave into the drive. Right, you get the whole thing driven.
Have everything.
Fully saturated. So this knob right here, all these 4 knobs are push button. This splits the routing so that you have your distorted bass tones, but the sub isn't distorted. Everything distorted. Right, you got that sort of saturated thing. You can have it fully saturated and it's sort of, but you notice it sort of pulls some of the attack out, some of the articulation. Throwing it in parallel gives you that same punch, crispness of just the distortion. It's almost like being doubled by somebody on a keyboard down and off.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you add drive to an octave, sometimes it can sound a bit flubby sometimes, or I kind of lose that impact, and you're just getting loudness and noise as opposed to definition, which you can totally hear that coming through.
My other favorite thing about it is, so we're just going to focus just on the octave signal itself. You know, it's a pretty solid bass player trick. Pull your entire clean signal out of your octave, play up an octave. So you have 3 different octave voices to choose from. There's this one, so.
There's sort of C2 type.
Oh, C2, big sort of fat vintage. Pure sub, the biggest, muscliest, just mixed bulldozer you could possibly come up with. And then this first feels like an MXR. It's like sort of growlier, not quite as much sub information. And with this, well, I'll leave it on the mode sound. So
it's a synth as well.
Yeah. You got all that. If you don't want all of that character, that sort of synthy character, you have a filter knob. So here it is all the way up. Pull back a little bit, make it a little more almost anonymous. That works, of course, with all. I want to be something that you like feel more than necessarily hear clearly as an effect.
Damn you, Amos. I'm going to get my hands on this pedal.
I'm so sorry.
I'm just going to be for hours playing with this, because that is, and every sound sounds fantastic, obviously with you at the helm.
Dude,
but dude, that's awesome. Couldn't tell us a little bit more about the sub as well, because we listened to that a minute ago. We won't listen to it on the recording here, but that changed the game as well.
Oh yeah.
It gave me so many ideas.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like, the thing I like about Darkglass, I mean, they're such a no-brainer to collaborate with. They've got pedals that are, even if they look complicated, the instruction manual is like right there on the front. This is a drive, this is a compressor, get going. But if you want to pop the hood and really start going crazy, you can. You can really be fussy about some details. So that accessibility and flexibility is just sort of a hallmark of what they do well. So this was a pitch by one of their engineers. So there's a dedicated 1/4-inch sub out. So if you want to send it to its own DI, let your sound engineer handle that, because subs, especially some of these, are massive in the mix, and something that works on stage or works in your ears might be just devastating out front, and you never want to mix engineers go, well, we'll just pull the whole thing down.
Down you go.
Because we can't peak, and so if they're having trouble corralling it, you end up with the result that you don't want.
Especially with a sub, like, they would just do that immediately. No,
yes.
I'd say that.
Yeah, like none of that. So this gives you the option to record it specifically on its own channel, send it to another amp on stage if your bandmates will put up with that sort of shenanigans, but to sort of treat it like its own specific thing, because it is a lot to introduce to a sound, especially when I think in parallel mode where it stays clean. The drive has a tendency to sort of corral it a little bit, pull it in, sort of act like kind of a high pass filter a little bit. But if you want like the full magnificence of it, you want to make sure it gets the respect it deserves, and then you have a dedicated output.
Absolutely. Well, you've made my live rig a lot more complicated.
It's exactly what I'm going to do, man.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Dude, absolutely. Anytime.